Well, hello, and I'm going to try and speak a little bit slower today. Had a few of our French followers saying, "Can you slow down a bit on the tracker, as it's a bit hard to follow?" And I know there's quite a bit of interest going into Cape Horn, so I will try and speak a little bit slower, especially when I'm explaining the interface with the weather and bits and pieces. So hopefully you can keep up and understand exactly what's happening. It's unfortunate we don't actually have a French live tracker update. I obviously don't speak French. It's an English race, and I say that the English language is the official language, but it's we start and finish in the UK. Whether that happens again in 27, who knows what? And we don't actually have anyone doing that with the knowledge and background to give credible explanations of what's happening with the weather. Something we might look at in the future, because there are a lot of French in the race. But anyway, it's all there for everyone to see and interpret the best way they can. So anyway, the tweets, if you've been following the tweets, there's little indications that things are getting a bit rougher and a bit more exciting for the crew. There's definitely the crews on the boats. There's definitely an air of excitement heading towards Cape Horn. It's a huge, sort of not an objective, but in some ways it is. But you tick the box when you do Cape Horn, and yes, it's nice to sail around the world in a circumnavigation, but to do it through the Southern Ocean via the Three Gate Capes with finally Cape Horn is absolutely special. There is so much mystique and just this huge sense of emotion and aura of the stories that have happened by the first mariners, 400 or 500 years ago, trying to get around Cape Horn, to present day going around Cape Horn. So many ships lost there. It's been estimated that about 10,000 people have probably not made it around Cape Horn and perished in the effort to do so. It's just an amazing experience to actually get to do it. And I think all of the crews realise the magnitude of that, and they'll all face that in their own way. It'll be something very special for them. My own personal experience, I was explaining it to someone today, was in 1991, February of 91, in my BOC racer, a 50-foot aluminium boat, specially designed and built for the BOC Challenge. And I was surrounding at night time, which is something that Penjuic will be doing and probably even translated. I didn't think I'd get to see it. I had it on radar, but I'd given up the thought of seeing Cape Horn. But as it turns out, I looked out the window when I was about 5 miles away, and I had a silhouette. It was pretty much a full moon. So I immediately bolted into the cockpit, and I had the moon and the Silver Grey Highway over here, and there was a clear opening in the clouds above, and it was quite light. I had a perfect silhouette of Cape Horn at night time, and I had about 35 knots, about 4 to 5 meter seas. It was absolutely perfect, hugely emotional moment. It always is for anyone that does it. So we'll look forward to getting the reports from the crews. We've asked them to, those that can, send a special group of 3 photos of their Cape Horn rounding, and also an extra video if they're sending videos specifically for the Cape Horn rounding. So it's more than the scheduled weekly material coming in. And we've also asked Penjuic to ring us tomorrow morning early, about 8, 9 o'clock our time here, which will be a few hours after they round Cape Horn, so we can get that sound cloud up and give people an idea of where the emotions were as they were rounding. And we'll issue that with a press release tomorrow morning as well. So a few things happening, but as I say, on the tweets, which Jane's putting up, we just had a report that possibly, it was from another boat, suggesting that Evrika may have broken their boom. There's other little reports of small damages and waves coming aboard boats and bits and pieces. So there'll be more of that, I'm sure, going into Cape Horn. But generally speaking, I am still gobsmacked. You'll see the weather. You couldn't ask for better. I mean, it's someone's looking after the fleet at the moment, touch wood. So straight to the tracker, and let's see what it looks like. Excuse me. Okay, so you can see here wow, they're making pretty solid progress right now, heading in towards Cape Horn, and we'll do some measurements in a minute, but yeah, making great speed. And you can see here, okay, so this is 1630 UTC weather, and the reports are at 1600. So what you're seeing is as it is right now. And Explorer down the back doing great, Sterner doing great. There is a new system forming here, which we'll show you in a minute, but everyone's basically having a pretty good time. So we'll walk you through that. Explorer, 8.6 knots, 187 mile a day, enjoying the conditions, a solid sou'wester, some water coming on board. Sterner got walloped with a bigger wave that took out their, or bent their dodger profiles, their poles and so on, and they're making 7.5 knots at 167 nautical mile a day. So that's not too bad either. Interesting one there, coming back down. Evrika has fallen back a little bit, 6.4 knots, 154 mile a day, and they're just coming out of that batch of heavy weather right now. Just pick that up a bit so you can see what's going on. The heaviest bit's gone over. They were warned about it. They knew it was coming, and they've all got little stories from it. So Outlaw, 8.3 knots, 199 nautical mile a day, looking pretty good, taking it on the starboard quarter, so that's absolutely perfect. They might have gone down without any mainsail and just been running under head sails and pulling from the front of the boat, so quite relaxed. White Shadows, 7.7 knots. They're underpowered there. They would normally be going a little bit faster than that. So anyway, that's still okay, 7.7, 184 mile a day. And Galliana with Secure, 8 knots, 192 mile a day. They're separating a little bit. And L'Esprit de Keep, 9.1 knots, 218 mile a day. They've certainly been pushing ahead a little bit better than the others in that mid group. Excuse me. Well, I haven't been using the mouse. You've been hearing me clunk again. Okay, back to the mouse. So everyone there is making good progress. And as I say, the worst of that weather has rolled over them. So they'll be having be settling in a little bit better now. Triana, 8.6 knots, 206 mile a day. Spirit of Helsinki, 9.4 knots, 220 mile a day. And then we've got Maiden converging over with Jeepers Neptune. So they're making 9.5 knots, 213 mile a day. And Neptune is 9.1 knots, 220 mile a day. So they've certainly got to move on. And they're staying a little bit ahead of the weather. So I think they'll be enjoying that as much as they've got some pretty heavy stuff. Now, it's kind of interesting. We've lost out here. For some reason, the tracker hasn't picked up on the course. I'm just going to cancel that and see if it... No, it's still there. That's interesting. Anyway, I can't show you what was happening, but previously some of the boats were a bit scattered in their directions, but we've lost a bit of the history on the track there for some reason. Anyway, they're all heading in the right direction now, which is encouraging. So just now come across to Translated and Penjuic. This weather here doesn't look right. I can't work out what's happening here. So that's 4th of February. That's why. Something's gone wrong with my tracker. I'm going to reboot the whole lot. There's something happened here because we're not meant to be looking 4th of February weather. We were into the 5th of February. So, which is more like that. I'm just going to reboot the whole system because we lost the historical data here. So just stand by. That explained why it wasn't looking right. Hopefully this will fix it up. I did reboot the whole lot just prior to. That's looking a bit better because I can see the wobbly track now. Okay, we've come up with the weather. 5th of February, 1600. That's looking better. Okay, now I have no idea why that happened, but this is now looking on track because I did renew it. Oh no, we still have lost some historic weather there on the track. But anyway, at least we've got the weather now caught up. Okay, so just to look at the big picture, just to explain. Again, Sterner's just coming out of it. Explorer's doing okay. Evrika, that's why they're going slower. because they're in this little bit of a hole. There is a new low pressure system forming here. It's a little bit confused at the moment. It's showing a couple of centres, but I'll show you on Windy exactly what's going on. And it doesn't look as dramatic in this sense, but it is going to affect the fleet, and it creates some little challenges. Fortunately, they're not big winds in all of this, but there's some nasty shapes forming up in this low pressure system that's going to form here. So for now, just to confirm that's why Evrica is going a bit slower, 5.8 knots, okay, 5.8 knots and 154 mile day. So that's because of the lack of wind. Outlaw, 6.5 knots, 199 mile day. White Shadow's been through it, 184 mile day, 7.2 knots. And Galliano with Secure, 7.6, 192. L'Esprit de Keep, 8.7, 218. So there's some winners and losers in this, which is going to move forward again. And Triana now still showing the same, 7.7, 206. Spirit of Helsinki, 9.4, 220. Neptune, just come up a little bit there. Neptune, 9.8 and 220 mile day. And Maiden just crossing ahead, 9.2 and 213 mile day. So, they're a bit all over the place, two distinct groups, and this is the realm now. They're going to come into it, but you'll see what happens with the weather. So, translated 9, 11.2 knots, 251 mile day. So they're really covering ground, and Penduic is paying off a little bit, 11.3 and 151 mile day. So maintaining very high averages, and they've moved into this heavier weather now, which I'll explain a little bit more on Windy once we have a look at what's going on. Distance to Cape Horn right now, from now to there, about 160 miles to go, and then even at 10 knots, that's only 16 hours. It's now 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock in the morning, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think for us here in Punta, I think you'll see Penduic cross under Cape Horn at around about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, our time, which means it'll be 3 hours difference on that on the other side. But anyway, we'll follow you through with ETAs. Also, there's a program we've just switched over. Georgie just set it up this morning. When they're about 3 hours from Cape Horn, it'll move on to I think 20 miles or 20 or 30 miles before Cape Horn. It'll go on to hourly tracking, so you can follow them around Cape Horn every hour rather than every 4 hours. I hope I'm not speaking too fast. So the tracker will show hourly when they're about 30 miles from Cape Horn, so you can follow them around there. And that'll happen to all the boats once they cross the line, about 30 miles out. They'll go to 1 hourly updates. So right now, this big storm has softened off quite a lot. Still looks pretty dramatic there, but it's only coming through at about 35 knots, okay? So forecast wind is 35 knots, but it could be gusting up to about 50 knots. And back here, it's quite comfortable sailing. You know, they've really come through under all the big winds. The whole fleet is really in an ideal position to ride their passage towards Cape Horn in a relaxed and comfortable way right now. So what's going to happen in the next few hours as they start to get in? We'll just start pushing this through. I click that off, hit that. So there we are right now, and we'll just push this. I might just go up 1 because you can see there's not much coming here. I want to give you the best view of what's happening. Okay, so now coming through 1640, there's about 12 hours. You can see that whole front, the whole system that was in front of Penduic just disappears. I'll just go through that again. They're in it right now, but this is all going to rush away into nowhere. So it'll start backing off very quickly. And you've only got about 10 hours to go. And you can see it's already dissipating. So within 10, 12 hours, it's backed off and it's getting weaker. And then by the time they get there, they'll be through into this calmer area, and they should have a nice rounding. By this stage, that's possibly what they're going to get when they go around. 7:30 tomorrow morning, which is close to it. So it looks pretty good. The guys at the back have got all good sailing. There, you can see here, there's no real surprises anywhere now. But there is that low, the center of the low that they're on is going to form up and do some strange things as the fleet comes across. So this is 24 hours up. 24 hours, the fleet will be across to about here somewhere. So they'll just be interacting with the lower end of this new little low pressure system forming there. So wind directs are going to change. Here you've got a northerly, there you've got a southerly. But because it's relatively light winds and they're a bit away from the major, what looks like the core, it shouldn't be too dramatic. The sea state should still be manageable. So I'll show you all of this again on windy shortly on the main map. But I'll show you what happens to the weather for the fleet coming through. We've got Penduic and translated through tomorrow morning on the 6th. Then on the 8th, you'll have this group through and you'll be able to see what's happening here with the 8th. So we're only on the 7th. On the 7th, you can see they've got a really beautiful southwesterly here. Okay, this is on the 7th. So a couple of days from now. And then there's some heavier wind, which will overflow the second group here. They'll cop this, but by the time we're now into the second day, so by the second day, it's about 400 miles, about 400 miles across. On the second day, when the weather looks like this currently, they're going to be around about here, which again is a very mild transition of Cape Horn for the maiden group. I call it the maiden group and the Galliana group. So the maiden group had a really nice run across. There's no expectation of dramatic storms or anything like that. And by the time they're getting there for the next day, they might get a little bit of a shift there, but that's probably only going to be 30 knots, gusting 40 or something. And it's all in the right direction. So I think you'll find that the maiden group will get close to Cape Horn. I think, I don't know whether it'll be day or night, but they'll certainly have a chance of getting close. And no real surprises by the 8th. Okay. Then we've got, if we look at the Galliana group, in terms of distance, how far behind are they? They're around about, it's not clicking. I'll try again. Okay, got it. Okay, from there to here, now it's about 160 miles, so they're only going to be a day behind. So if they're through on the 8th, the Galliana group will be through on the 9th. And our current weather picture is showing the 8th. So if we now go through to you can see they've got a beautiful fast, 30 gusting 40 westerly here for the Galliana group. Just going to push them very nicely towards Cape Horn, and it'll be rough enough, but it'll be no big deal. They'll have 40 knots, maybe 4 to 5 meter seas, and they'll be around. So again, not too bad at all. And then if we come back even here, if this forecast holds, we're back to the 10th of February already, which is starting to get, it's only 5 days out, but that's possible to hold there if we keep pushing that through and look at the big picture for Sterner and Explorer even. It's relatively wide open. It's not clicking through. Why is it not clicking through? Here we go. I can come up one here just to show you Explorer and Sterner. That should be now working. Yep, here we go. They're not going to get through until maybe the 13th, but you'll see there's nothing really, on this current forecast, there's no big dramas at all. It's still got a nice place happening there. There's some interesting stuff coming there, but I think they'll probably just be around. And most of this stuff that you saw then is heading way down south. It's not impacting and squeezing at Cape Horn. So there's the 13th, and it's about when they're due to get around, 14. All looks pretty reasonable. So someone is absolutely looking after the fleet. The weather looks very relatively benign, which is what you're supposed to get at this time of the year. But it's nice to see that that's what's happening. So before we go to a final wrap up on Windy, we'll just have a look at the leaderboard. I can get this here, get this down here, and you can see a line on it is Penduic, translated Maiden, Neptune, Spirit of Helsinki, Triana, and so on. That's pretty much as you saw. This is the interesting one on IRC. So translated is 34 days, 4 hours. And we've got Triana. Translated's pulled away a bit from Triana. They were 24 hours difference. Now it's 35 days and 8 hours. So that's 1 hour, 1 day and 4 hours behind. She's lost 4 hours on translated. Next one through is 36 days. So another day behind that. 36 days, 20 hours, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's only 2 hours. 2 days and 16 hours for the difference between translated and Penduic. So Penduic has actually caught up a little bit, taken a bit out on translated, and it's inside the 3-day penalty, so that's interesting. Then Galliana with Secure, it's 37 days and 8 hours, so it's nearly a day behind, and then there's a bunch of them on 37 days, 12 hours, 38.5, 38.6, and so on, White Shadow and Maiden. So a few things happening there. Okay, I'm going to roll over now to Windy just to show you the wind strengths. Now this is pretty interesting because right at the moment this is about where you've got translated and Penduic. They're sort of coming in at this spot, and in actual fact, so this is the real-time weather now, and this is wind speed. And in fact, we talk about this storm that was projected some time ago. It's not really a storm. It is solid weather. This is heavy weather around Cape Horn, but you can see here 32 knots. You've really got to go hunting for anything over 35 knots. There's a little bit there, 36 knots, 35, 30, 35, 36 knots. That's it. Okay, so it's 37. Bit of a push over here, but at the moment they're there. So this is forecast wind 35, 36 knots. Perfect for Southern Ocean. What's the gust doing? Okay, so this is where it picks up. There you go, bang. It's gusty. It's super gusty. There'll be bullets coming through. It's 50, maybe even up to 55. It's squeezing right there. There's 55, 56, 55, 56, 47. So gusts averaging around 50 knots. All right. So it's 35 knots to gusting 50 knots around Cape Horn. That sounds like a pretty nice mouthful. It's quite thin, but it's not super duper. This is fantastic for them. You got to believe me. I am so happy for translated and Penduic that they're getting heavy weather around Cape Horn. I think this is exactly what they wanted. It's exactly what they're getting. And generally, whilst anything can happen, and they absolutely have some tricky seas, this is a beautiful weather set for a classic rounding of Cape Horn. I'm really happy for them. Fingers crossed, touch wood, hope it all goes well. Here's the wave situation. At the moment, it's running at around about 6 to 7 meters. Okay, so if you're lucky, you can go there. Now, this is usually a conservative measure. Normally, when I'm telling people that the forecast is 6.6 meters, it can get to 7, 8 meters very easily, maybe even higher, 7, 8, 9 meters even. It's a generalization, but again, when it's forecast wave height, the waves can be, 20% higher without even asking. So that's 6.5, 7.5, 8.5. They could have 8 meter seas, maybe even bigger at times. And then if you put alongside that the secondary swell, and here's the secondary swell, and you can clearly see the definition point here of what you've got, and it's a 2.3 meter swell from the northwest. Right now, the original swell at 6.6 is also from the northwest, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so you think, well, that's all right. It's just going to be ups and downs. That's at 10-second intervals, and the secondary swell just at that point is northwest 2.3 meters at 11 seconds. But watch this. I'm right on the transition there. If I go a little bit over here, all of a sudden you got southwest. That's right next door. That's why you're seeing all this confusion here. So in an instant, you go to a 3.3 meter swell from the southwest coming in this direction, from a northwesterly swell of 6.6 coming in that direction. And that's cutting at 90 degrees. All right. And if you know your waves and what happens, that's where it can get nasty. You can if you get caught in the transition when they're rolling past each other, that 6 metre sea can easily pick up to 10, 11 metres, and just in front of it, it'll have what I call a hole. And if you happen to be in the running area where there might be a hole, it adds another couple of metres on that. And that's what often people refer to as the road wave. It's just being in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And these potholes are all over the place. You see them when you're out there. And so that's where anything can happen. So when we say, oh, it's not so bad, 35 knots, gusting 55, there is a bit of a potential nasty sea here. And you can see as I move this around, it's 1.8 metre secondary swell at 12 seconds from the west. And I just come over here and it's gone northwest at 2.4. So there's some very confused seas there. Anyway, currents are nothing. They're all heading across through Drake Passage. And so just coming back to this is the real-time weather now. And so they're coming through around about here. Now watch this. This is the next one. If we push this through a little bit, you'll see it's all running away. It's all dropping off really quickly. That's just in a few hours. They'll be moving with it. So in a few hours, they'll be coming along, holding with it. But very quickly, if we come to a point now, and this is at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're due there, they're not due there yet. You can see it's dropped back to 28 knots. So it's all softening off. So I think they're going to have 30 knots, gusting 40 by the time they actually get to Cape Horn and go around. However, you always get a little squeeze here. See this? So I'll build that up and you can see Cape Horn a little bit better. You always get this little bit of a squeeze here. So they'll be fighting pretty hard to have a look at Cape Horn, I'm sure. Right at Cape Horn, it drops off because you're around the corner of the hook. It's only 25 knots, and this is about when they're going to go around. 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock. No, that's it. They could drop right off. 6 o'clock. They're probably going to go around about here. That's probably what they're going to have when they go around. So you might find that they drop right off to 17, 15, 18 knots or something, because this is the wind peeling off the Cape, right? And it goes calm very quickly. The waves are going to drop down really quickly as well. You're back to 3 meters just off Cape Horn. Get around the corner. This is a Estrecho de la Mer here. If they go through there, they're going to have calm all the way through. Depends on the wind and current going when they turn the corner. So I think they're going to have an interesting experience going through. Translators about 3 or 4 hours behind Penjuic, so they're going to enjoy that as well. Then they've got reaching winds out here, and they may get some headwinds by the time they get up a bit further and see. No, it's pretty light and moderate, but they may go wide. You can see the wind swung on the nose here. So anyway, but we don't want to go there. We're talking about Cape Horn for now. So that's that one. I'm going to go back and show you the rest of the fleet leading into Cape Horn with this low pressure. The weather forecasting here on Windy is actually a lot more accurate than what you're seeing on the Yellow Brick tracker. Okay, that's the first thing. And this is the guts of this new system that's forming. That's where the fleet is right now. Very simple, great sailing conditions, it's 15 knots, generally in the right direction. So that's kind of nice. And then as time goes by, the Galliana fleet may come through and it starts to form its centre very clearly. And this is where you get the wind direction shuffle, but most of the fleet then will be in this lower section. So we may get some winners and losers here with slight different winds, because if you're there and you're coming this way, you've got headwinds. But if you're over here, you're okay. So this will be very localised. But fortunately, there's not, no one's up here. And this is where you get the slightly heavier wind going around. Still not super heavy, but 35 knots and gusting wind gusts of around 40 knots. And you get the sudden transition of wind direction. But our fleet should be down underneath that and hold it. So no big surprises again. And everything else coming after that is very cool. So you can see here a simple run into Cape Horn. I think that's enough of that. You probably lost track of what I was saying. So I'll come back here and say good day and see what the people are thinking. And I'm still trying to speak a little bit slower. So I hope it wasn't too slow and not too fast. G'day, Ian from Thingo, John. We'll be putting up a Q&A this week. Yeah, yeah, I will. I didn't do it straight on Friday. I usually do it Fridays, but it was got late answers. And I don't know whether there's many people that want to know questions, but I will. I'll put one up today because it's all about Cape Horn, and some people might have some questions. So I will put a Q&A up after this, after I get off here. Okay, Gerardo, good saying, yeah. Yeah, Pat, good to see you there. Pat, same here. There's Kerry. Do you cooperate with Passage Guardian? I saw on Facebook. No, we don't. We know Passage Guardian really well. We don't cooperate with them. It's entirely up to, when I say don't cooperate, we stay away from the whole issue of weather forecasting. It's up to the entrants to organise and coordinate their own forecasting, and they have various things they can work with. One of the entrants in particular has got their own private radio network, which is working all the way around the world. They're getting fantastic weather information, and they've just basically done their homework, and every entrant has the opportunity to do that. And I can tell you now, some people are getting much better weather than others. And Passage Guardian is one of those opportunities as well. It's a private weather forecasting system. We don't get involved with giving any weather forecast to entrants other than from windy once the forecast wind is over 35 knots. So, but Passage Guardian, pretty cool guy. He came in and met the fleet at the, I think it was either the prize giving or the farewell. Peter was there, and he came to say g'day, and I was so busy I thought I'll catch him after, and I never got to see him before he left. So, but a pretty good service, and I know the entrants really love it. So, so they get good forecasting from Peter, and he does a great job. It's fully voluntary. You know, he runs a service for boats up in the Pacific. He's got a lot of people that tune in, and he gives them more sophisticated weather. Our weather information is restricted to the World Meteorological Organization, GMDSS forecasting only, or any nationally generated forecast that's freely available to the public, no private systems. So when I say one of the entrants has a private network that is coordinated and gets it nearly every day from a station in Europe via HF radio, they're still only giving the legal weather forecasting, but you know, it's good to get it regularly and reliably. So, and that can set the difference in the competitive nature of the boats, you know. So it's up to the entrants to organise and coordinate their own weather information. I got my ticket for Dillons. I'm looking forward to your talk. Oh, okay, I'm not sure what that one is. Hello from Algrave. Oh, jeepers, Portugal. I like the place. 50 years ago, Penduic just mastered again in the Pacific. Maybe it would have Penduic versus Sayula. Now it is again Penduic versus Translated 9, another Swan 65. Too true, you know. There's a few people been talking and writing about Penduic, including Ada. She did a great video. But, you know, Penduic didn't have a lot of luck in their early challenges to actually complete and compete in the Whitbread race for various reasons. It's an amazing story. Too long to tell now, but certainly, you know, Marie would have to be pretty happy with what's going on at the moment, touch wood. Her and her team are doing a fantastic job and reliving the dream that started over 50 years ago. And they're making traction and they're making progress, and it's never only over till the fat lady sings, but there's quite a ding-dong battle going on between a few of the leaders. You know, you got Penduic, you got Translated, you got Spirit of Helsinki, you got Maiden. You know, they're all up there having a go. So, and as I say, it is never only over till the end, and there's still a long way to the finish. So, quite a story. G'day, Marco. Looks like they're going to have a great passage. Yeah, fingers crossed, touch wood. G'day, John. Christine, glad to see you got a ship to Antarctica. Jeepers. Sounds good. They can pass very close to the Cape. Yeah, I think they will. The conditions are looking, I thought yesterday or the day before it might have been too tough to get a peak for the leaders, but I think they've got a chance to get up there. There's not much of a moon at the moment, but let's wait to see what happens. They have radar and they can use radar, so no reason why they shouldn't try to get up close. Let's hear their story later on. Okay, go translator. Can't see you live on Whitney. Oh, jeepers. Oh, jeepers. I was sure it went on Windy. Bloody hell. Why didn't that pick up? Okay, all right. Well, in future, I'm going to put another screen there and see what happens. Stuck on the same graphic. Bugger. Bloody hell. Lost. Is the screen stuck? I'm not sure whether you got to see it. I'll have to have a look anyway. Bugger. Okay. I don't want to go through the whole thing again now. Okay, all right. I'll see. I might do another tracker update tonight or something. I'll see. I'll replay it and have a look. Okay. Just found out the mistake. No, I'm not sure. Anyway, okay. Sorry about that. That's a bit of a bugger. I'm sure I hit Windy to come up. Maybe I didn't. Oh, jeepers. Bloody hell. Okay. Bugger. Okay. See you later. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey,